Hey there. Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about the three mothers: the good mother, the evil stepmother, and the fierce, feminine, wild mother. And all three of these archetypes challenge both our inner coward and our inner hero or heroine. And we all have an inner coward. It's the part of us that holds us back from taking healthy risks, from stepping into the flow of life. The inner coward holds us back from expressing who we really are and how we really feel in our relationships, in our creativity, or in any area of our life where we're more afraid of rejection or disapproval than we are of telling the truth or being genuine. And although the motive of the inner coward might be to make us safe or keep us from harm, it harms us in a much deeper way by stunting our growth, keeping us small and caged. And under the influence of the inner coward, we become weak, frightened, and underdeveloped. I've been rereading one of my favorite books, Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, a Jungian psychologist and storyteller extraordinaire. And she tells the story of Vasilisa. It's a Russian or Central European folktale, which has some echoes of Cinderella. And so at the start of the story, Vasilisa's mother is dying. And in her last breaths, she gives her daughter a tiny doll and says, "This is my blessing to you. Keep this doll with you always, and ask it for what you need, and you shall receive." And in probably too short a time after the mother's death, the father remarries a horrible woman with horrible daughters. And they hate Vasilisa because she's pretty and she's sweet and she's just naturally kind and energetic. And when the father's not around, they're terribly cruel to her, and they decide to plot her death. And of course, this is before the days of the gas company, so fire in the home was central to heat and cooking and almost everything. And they put the fire out and they tell Vasilisa, "We have no fire and we can't restart it. You must go out into the woods to the dangerous creature, Baba Yaga, and bring fire back for the family." Vasilisa says, "Sure, I'll do it." And the mother and the stepsisters know that Baba Yaga eats the foolish and careless. In fact, that is her job as the fierce feminine, to eat our fears, our foolishness, our naivete. There are three mothers in this story, three aspects of the feminine. The good mother, who has her role, but then she must die, and she bequeaths the daughter with instincts and intuition. And there's the cruel stepmother, the self-hating aspect of ourself that's jealous or afraid of our authentic strength and power, our own shadow. It can also be expressed in the larger society that wants to keep girls nice and quiet and enslaved, to kill their spirit. And then there's Baba Yaga, the wild woman, who challenges us right to the edge of our capacities, makes us strong, resilient, wise, and cunning. Connects us with magic and alchemy, and forces us to rely on our instincts and intuition in a way that the good mother and the evil stepmother cannot. And Vasilisa starts out into the woods holding her little doll in her pocket, and at each fork in the path, the little doll gives her direction, intuition of which way to go. And ultimately she comes to Baba Yaga's compound, and there's skulls on stakes with fire in them. Some of the trees around the house are burned out. And Baba Yaga feels her approaching, says, "Who's there?" And Vasilisa says, "Oh, Baba Yaga, I'm here to get fire for my family." And each of us has a special fire to offer to our families, to those we love, and to the world at large. And we need to dig deep into the wild part of ourselves to gather that sacred fire that's unique to each of us, that will provide warmth and nourishment, but will also burn away that which is petty, cruel, fear-based, or limiting. And Baba Yaga says, "I have lots of fire, but you have to earn it." She starts giving her all these almost impossible tasks to do. There's a mound of dirt filled with poppy seeds, and she says, "You must separate the poppy seeds from the dirt by the morning, or I'll eat you up. And Vasilisa rubs her little doll, and the doll says, don't worry, go to sleep, and it'll be done. And in the morning, there's 2 piles, one of dirt, one of poppy seeds. Baba Yaga gives her these other impossible tasks, and the little doll magically takes care of them. And ultimately, Baba Yaga has to give her the fire and hands her one of the flaming skulls. And as Vasilisa carries it home to her stepmother and stepsisters, it burns them up. And that's the end of the story. And every character in this story is a teaching moment about ourselves. That there's a time when the good mother, perhaps the too good mother, must die. And we must rely on our own intuition, our own instincts. And if we're lucky, perhaps our mother has gifted us those things. But if not, we will be gifted those things by the universe. Because ultimately, we are children of God. And the universe is our spiritual parent. And as we learn to trust our instincts and intuition, our own deeper knowing that's connected with the transpersonal in the universe, things can work out in ways we wouldn't imagine. Poppy seeds can be separated from dirt. But if Vasilisa's too good mother had stayed alive, had kept her safe and overprotected, she would not have had the opportunity to face the difficulties of the world and grow strong and brave and wise. And I know as a mother, it can be very tempting to keep our children safe. But when we keep them too safe, we weaken them. No one wants their baby to get ill, but germs and colds actually build the immune system. And if little children don't get sick with these mild illnesses, their immune system may be compromised. Resistance, tension actually builds strength. I'm reminded of my client, Debbie, came to me struggling with addiction to prescribed anti-anxiety medication. Stunningly beautiful young woman, always really well kept, in her late 20s, financially supported by her parents because she couldn't hold a job. In fact, she couldn't show up for much of anything. She had had a too good mother. Debbie's mother, also stunningly beautiful, obsessed with her looks, in fact, extremely anorexic. And Debbie's father did almost everything for everyone. He was the financial support. He was also the cook and the house cleaner, because Debbie's mother had a string of non-specific ailments that kept her pretty non-functioning. And the agreement between the parents seemed to be that mom needed rescuing and dad could be the rescuer. And that dynamic seemed to work pretty well between the parents, but it had rendered Debbie being pretty much disabled. Debbie's mother was never challenged to do anything uncomfortable, stressful, or difficult. And that was how that mother raised her children. And so when Debbie was anxious to go to school, she got to stay home. She missed almost an entire year of 5th grade. In fact, they switched schools for her so she wouldn't be held back. And mother protected her from any worry or distress. Anything that she felt like she wasn't good at, she was not asked to even try. They would just allow her to quit or move. And so Debbie wasn't given that little doll of instinct, intuition, or inner strength, and had become completely dependent on others to take care of her, and had exactly 0 self-esteem because she hadn't done anything to esteem herself. And perhaps the shadow side of the too good mother is the inner evil stepmother and stepsisters. Debbie was pretty debilitated by self-hatred, self-criticism, and a lot of guilt and shame about her own inner cowardice. And she ended up meeting and getting married to this really great guy who actually had an incredibly independent and strong mother. And he was not interested in coddling Debbie in the way she was used to. And part of her liked that and part of her resented it. But as we came to look more deeply at her relationship with her own mother, she realized that the dependence that she had on her parents was actually part of their pathology, and that her wings had been clipped or weakened from lack of use, and that her parents continued to advise her not to do anything that would be stressful or difficult. Don't go back to school. Oh, you don't want to take that job. You aren't smart enough for that. Oh, that would be too difficult for you. And that criticism that Debbie had for herself, very much like the stepmother and stepsister's bad feelings toward Vasilisa, actually pushed Debbie away from her parents and toward her own personal growth. And she had always thought of herself as physically weak and she got pregnant, and her body adapted to the pregnancy really well. The birth was extremely hard, but she decided to have a natural birth with no medication. And on the other side of it, she said, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. I can't believe I made it through that. I didn't know I was that strong, and I feel so proud of myself. And she actually felt some betrayal from her parents who had led her to believe that she was weak, and she had not explored or exercised her inner inner strength. And so, although maybe the good mother would want Vasilisa to just stay home and have nice stepsisters, it was actually the difficulties that drove her to Baba Yaga to face the trials of seeking the fire for the home, which could be seen as the inner spirit, our inner fire, that actually grew and developed the inner resilience that ultimately healed her life and killed off the stepsisters or those inner demons, as Vasilisa, like my client Debbie, faced and found her own inner guidance, courage, and fortitude. And it was very interesting that Debbie's new mother-in-law was a total challenge for her on every level. And her husband would not get in the middle of it. And the mother-in-law kind of walked all over Debbie early in her grandchildren's lives. She would just come over unannounced, and she had lots to say about the child rearing. It made Debbie crazy. But she didn't know how to have a healthy confrontation. She had been raised on avoiding everything. When Debbie's mother had gone away for an inpatient treatment for her anorexia, they told the children that she was away on vacation. They lied. And the kids knew what was happening, because children always know the truth on some level. And so we did a lot of work on Debbie owning her own authentic power to be able to tell the mother-in-law she needed to call before she came over. And thank you very much, but I don't need your child rearing advice. And Debbie was able to use that inner fire, that blazing skull, instead of turning that energy inward with self-hatred like the stepmother and stepsisters, and like Vasilisa returning with the blazing skull of her own newly discovered inner strength, intuition, and instincts, Debbie was able to turn that energy in a healthy way back toward the mother-in-law and set some boundaries. And mother-in-law completely backed off, changed their relationship. And I use the metaphor of exercise and lifting weights a lot because it's a direct correlation with our own inner character building and personal growth. If I want to get stronger and build muscle, I need to lift weights until I can't lift them anymore. I need to stress my muscles, stretch myself right to the edge of what I can do, and then I will grow. And lifting weights that are light and easy may keep my joints lubricated, but it won't make me stronger. And if I do nothing, if I don't exercise at all, then my muscles will deteriorate. And the same is true for our spirits, our minds, and our emotions, as are true for our bodies. And so I encourage you to take risks in your life. Push the edges. Move towards some of the fierce love of Baba Yaga. Pushes you to the limits of what you think is possible. And miraculous things will come to pass. Because we all have that little doll inside of us of instinct, intuition, strength, courage, and inner guidance. And staying safe might be comfortable in the short run, but ultimately it makes us weak and small and filled with self-doubt or even self-hatred. And we go out into the forest seeking the fire that may be missing from our homes. The universe will rise to meet us, and we will find those resources that we didn't even know we had. And they will make us strong and resilient and wise. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like a free download of my book and workbook, Allies and Demons, Working with Spirit for Power and Healing, there's a link in the show notes. If you'd like to find out about my mentorship program or how a block of spiritual psychology work might benefit you in your life, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. Deep gratitude to my supporters on Patreon. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.